Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And guys, this legal advice post has multiple updates, so please be sure to watch until the end. It is titled Unlawful Deduction of Wages plus 12 months of missing pension contributions. I am in a bit of a pickle. I've worked for a small company for just over 6 years. I really don't like them, the owners are not good people, but I've managed to keep my head down, get my work done, and survive. I knew I wanted to get out, so 2 years ago I started a part-time MSc, which I am nearly finished, and saved really hard to give myself a bit of a cushion and get the recommended savings of 3 months salary, although I was hoping to spend this on a deposit for a house. I am about 3 months away from my anticipated date of getting the hell out. The last few months my salary has been paid late, just a few days ago, but still late. My boss, the CEO, sends emails out to the staff telling them afterwards, but quite often forgets to include me. Last month my salary was 4 days late. I emailed to create a paper trail, asked for an explanation and asked to be advised if there would be any issues paying me in the future, explaining I had direct debits due on the 1st of each month and I needed notice to pull money from my savings account to cover these if I wasn't going to be paid on the agreed date. I got a lot of waffle in return. By the way guys, I'm not sure exactly what getting a lot of waffle in return means. That seems to be a British thing, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, cut to this month, I was due to be paid on the 28th June, I'm still waiting. By Tuesday of last week, I'd had enough and decided I had to try to stand up for myself a bit. After my boss was unable to confirm when I would be paid, I advised him I would be taking holidays until Friday, when I expected the situation to be resolved. Friday came and went, I was not paid. I've received a flurry of pleading/threatening messages from my boss via WhatsApp. To each I have responded asking when I can expect to be paid. He won't answer the question. All the other staff have been paid, but as the most senior, I haven't been. My boss honestly expects me to work on out of loyalty. In the midst of this, I checked my online pension account only to find that not only have none of my pension contributions, which are deducted directly from my salary, been deposited for the last 12 months, neither have the contributions the company is supposed to be making. All contributions stopped on 28th July 2018. I have brought this to my boss's attention. He is ignoring this too. I have spoken to the ACAS-CAB, who referred me to welfare rights at my local council, and I've contacted one of those no-win, no-fee legal places for a consulting. I am starting early consultation with ACAS today. I'm not sure how much use this will be. I don't think the company has any money to pay me, and I have an appointment with the welfare rights people later this week. I have a couple of questions. What should I do now? I was on holiday until Friday, but I'm supposed to be working today. ACAS said that if I refuse to work, my boss can start disciplinary proceedings against me even though they are not paying me. Is this right? Do I have a case for constructive dismissal? Things are getting nasty and I don't think I can deal with this. For example, in my boss's opinion, this is all my fault. He's working for his own company without pay, so I should too. And my refusal could lead to the downfall of the company and people will lose their jobs and he might lose his house and it is all my fault. Is there anything else I should/could be doing here? In the grand scheme of things, this is awful, but at least I've got some savings. If this had happened to me in the years I was living paycheck to paycheck, I would have drowned by now. I feel like I am stuck in a bit of a gray area and no one can tell me what I am supposed to do. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. And a person in the comments gave a very lengthy answer. Firstly, I am not a lawyer, and yes, your boss can start disciplinary procedure if you don't turn up to work. Your contracted hours presumably states you must work those hours or you will face discipline after all. As far as constructive dismissal, it is possible you'd have a case, but there's the question of what you expect to happen as a result. If you continue to work there and are not disciplined, then you are not earning to support yourself. If you stop working there, you have the option of finding another job. You can still perform the legal proceedings against your current employee whilst working at another job. In fact, you don't have to officially hand notice or quit your current job before starting a new one. Just consider your tax relief can only be used in full at your first job. I've always considered ACAS to be a reputable source of information, and I'd suggest if they say something to take it as serious advice. Always take everything with a pinch of salt and do your own research to some extent also. By the sounds of it, your boss has little or no money and is fishing your pension fund to help stay afloat. This is also illegal, of course, and you can report this to Action Fraud for investigation. Your counsel will also likely do this or suggest you do this. Going forward, work with your counsel and ACAS, report your case to Action Fraud, consider new employment to keep your financials in place unless you believe your savings will last, but legal proceedings can take their time. All the best and good luck, maybe consider an update post too. And I gotta say guys, I absolutely love how that scumbag of a boss is trying to guilt trip the OP. I mean, unless I understood something wrong, the OP is just a simple employee, and as such he cannot be responsible for the entire company going down and the boss then losing his house. If you were in this situation, what would you suggest the OP to do? Let us know in the comments. And by the way, has your boss ever tried to guilt trip you? Let us know. Update: I ain't getting paid, but all my ducks are in a row. I made a post a while ago, it is here. To summarize, the boss was not paying me and had nicked my pension. Overall, quite rude. Well, he paid me and promised it would never happen again, but then at the end of July it happened again. I bet you are shocked. He kept promising I would be paid soon and kept shifting dates. By August, he was promising I would be paid everything I was owed, nearly £10,000 if we include all the pension shenanigans by the end of September. And by the way guys, I forgot to mention, this story is from r/LegalAdvice UK, because we haven't had one of those in a while and you seem to enjoy the legal advice stories from other countries. Either way, it is October, he missed this deadline too. This time I was not shocked. I've got all my ducks in a row, ACAS, HMRC, pensions regulator. I am going to open a can of whoop ass on him like he's never seen before. I may never see the money I am owed, but that does not mean I cannot make his life difficult, and I bloody will. While I was not being paid, I was still working. He did not give me much to do, but I was there, replying to emails, never far away from my laptop, answering his calls and helping when asked. As I wasn't overloaded, I also managed to land my absolute dream job at a company who are more than happy to pay me. Apparently every month. Now the question bit. My contract says I have to give 4 weeks notice. However, my contract also says I should be paid on the last working day of every month, so I'm not sure if I have to stick to it. In my resignation email, I suggested we terminate my employment with immediate effect due to the breaches of my contract by the company and the amount of holiday I am owed. 3 whole weeks holiday. My boss, the CEO, will not respond. He won't acknowledge the resignation email or talk to me. He's not talking to me at all. I forwarded the email and asked again for some acknowledgement, CCing the head of HR in. Still no response. It's not like him to be quiet. He's a proper Reggie-Getchy who shouts and screams. He once threw a book at me, he missed. I would really like to start my new job next week, but I don't dare confirm a start date when I don't know what my boss is up to. Can he do anything to me? In my mind, he doesn't have a leg to stand on with forcing me to work my notice with the way his company has behaved. But obviously, I'm not a solicitor or law person. What would you do? Usual stuff. In England, salaried employee. Been there for nearly 7 years and I have the PTSD to prove it. And OP gave another update in the comments. Update to update, evil boss broke his emails this morning. Apparently it was news to him that you have to pay Gmail for business accounts. Oh, how the other half live. I fixed them for him because I am nice and also suffering from Stockholm syndrome, and he has agreed to let me go. I am free. I have to go and see him to hand all my stuff back on Friday. He will try to make me cry, but I won't let him. He thinks we are still mates though. Spoiler, we were never mates, so I will play nice and wait until he fails to pay me everything he owes me at the end of the month. At which point I will rain down the fires of hell upon him. It will be an admin nightmare, but I'm kind of looking forward to it. Thank you very much to you all for your help and guidance. It had been invaluable and you are all fabulous. But dear God, I hope I never have to darken your doors again. And a user in the comments answered, you've probably affirmed all of the breaches by continuing to work there, thus you cannot then rely on them to claim that the contract's terms don't apply because the contract ended. It obviously did not end because you affirmed the breach and have continued. Thus your contractual notice and statutory of course continue to apply. Obviously, if you just up sticks and leave, he could sue you for damages for finding a replacement. If he is vindictive, he may try it. You of course have the issues about pension contributions etc. you can use as leverage to discourage that. And guys, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is once again an update and it is titled Employer Not Responding to Tribunal Paperwork. Kind of an update, but not really. You have helped me out before and I remain most grateful. I know I said last time I hope to never darken your doors again, but it appears I may have been somewhat overconfident. TLDR, super shady evil boss owes me £12,000 for unpaid salary, missing pension contributions, holiday pay, as well as not paying my tax and NI. Recent discovery, according to my personal tax account, he terminated my employment on 31st July 2019. Apparently when I was working for him in August and September, I must have been volunteering. An involuntary volunteer, who hasn't heard that before? Anyways, I have a new job, it is great, I do cool stuff and I even get paid. Who knew life could be like this? I have not thought about crashing my car into a brick wall to avoid going to work once yet. It is a whole new world. I went through ACAS, skipped early conciliation and ran headfirst into an employment tribunal. I did it alright, I've got my evidence, submitted everything, I even got a date, 12th December. I used to work with politicians, I took this date as an omen. The tribunal got cancelled this week. Reason is that shady ex-boss has not updated the address of his company on the company's house. Shady boss did not respond to any tribunal paperwork which was sent to his house, which is where he runs the business from now, and to him via email. Tribunal judge is making me start the whole process again, reserving him at the address on company's house which he no longer owns. I've submitted land registry stuff to show he sold it in a March, but to no avail. Back to square one. So I have a couple of questions. I think shady boss won't respond to this tribunal form either because he has not a leg to stand on. Do you think the judge will let me go ahead finally, or is he going to get away with just consistently dodging it? I will not stop until he is stopped. Do I need to prepare for a lifelong grudge match? Second, is there anything else I can do? I wondered if I could report him to the police over the theft of my pension contributions. For over 12 months, personal and company contributions to my pension were shown on my payslip. None of these made it to my poor, neglected pension account. I've already reported him to the pension regulator, but they don't tell you what they are up to. I did also ring HMRC about him not paying my tax or NI, but they just told me to speak to ACAS. I honestly thought they would bite my hand off for the info, but no. Is there anyone I can grass him up to about not keeping company's house up to date? Number 3, I've got a quote for flying a plane over his house with a banner that says, "Real name of shady boss is a twat, £600 an hour plus VAT." I'm considering buying it for myself for Christmas. Do you think I need to change the wording on the banner to make sure that while I am as annoying as possible, I'm not doing something illegal? Further TLDR, and by the way guys, I'm not really sure if this guy really understands what a TLDR is. Anyway, I know I won't get my £12,000 back, but I just need to stop this guy somehow. He's a bad man, and I cannot have it on my conscience that I didn't try my hardest to stop him before he does this to someone else. Which he will, because I'm not the first, but will be the last. And a person in the comments said, you really should get a solicitor so as to avoid falling into procedural pitfalls. You send paperwork to his house, but obviously if you are suing a company you serve at the registered address or the place of business, if the respondent is playing silly games, then your solicitor may be able to apply for a substituted service. You may find that you are blinded by the perceived strength of the claim and yet fail on the procedural steps. I am sure there are lurkers on this very sub who can tell you about their litigant in-person experiences in the employment tribunal. As for your other questions, you are clearly making the mistake of thinking civil litigation is going to result in some sort of natural justice and emotional vindication. It will not. It will be stressful at the best of times, and there's a very real risk that whatever the judgment is, and it may go against you, you will not feel satisfied or it will be a Pyrrhic victory. You seem to be teetering on the edge of what very emotional invested litigants who are both aggrieved and cannot let go, they become what the courts and practitioners hate, the litigant who cannot take no for an answer. The problem is that those litigants often come unstuck no matter the merits of their claim. For instance, in this case, the Supreme Court held that a person who made countless complaints to regulators and HMRC and the police etc. over an extremely bitter dispute was in fact guilty of harassment. In another case, continual civil proceedings were held to be malicious prosecution. Now, I don't think you have reached that stage yet, but if you are going to fly a plane over his house in such a way, I would expect the tribunal to think that to be absolutely unreasonable conduct and make a costs order against you, even if it was not harassment. But it may even be harassment if it cannot be shown to have caused distress against more than one person on that occasion. You may end up winning, but then still losing your house and all your money because you are made bankrupt because of a costs order. Save the £600 and spend it on a therapist, hire a solicitor for the ET claim, especially because the other side is playing games. A grudge match will probably end up with you as the eventual loser, his company will be wound up, but you will be personally liable. And now the final update to the story. I'm not going to hire a plane to fly a banner over my ex-boss's house calling him names, even though it would be correct. TLDR, super evil ex-boss stopped paying me, stole 14 months of my personal and company pension contributions, was generally a bad and shifty, thanks autocorrect, human. He refused to engage and tried to delay / put off any employment tribunal action by being a dick. He's good at that. However, turns out I am also excellent at being a dick and stubborn, because after almost a year, this week I won on every single count, including counts I did not even raise, such as notice pay. I am imagining that the judge must have seen how much of a dick he was to start tacking on extras. I know I probably won't ever see any of the money he owes me, but when he fails to pay up, which he will, I can send the bailiffs round, and maybe if I ask nicely, they will let me watch. And then when I still don't get any money because he will tell the bailiffs that everything belongs to one of his other companies, the government will name him publicly. While probably no one will see, maybe if I Google it enough I can out SEO him so at least other people will be warned off. He is currently reinventing himself as a guru. Anyway, thank you for your help, and please don't go joining any cults without Googling them thoroughly first, just in case. And guys, unfortunately that is the end of the story so far. If there are any further updates I will keep you posted, but to be honest I don't really have much hope in this case. And guys, this marks the end of the first part of the video. The second part is gonna be comprised of a set of older stories that some of you might have heard already if you are a loyal subscriber. However, if you are new to the channel, these stories will be new for you as well. Next one is titled Landlord Demote Kitchen on Apartment I'm Trying to Sublease. And I suppose demote means demolished or something? Anyway, I have a lease for an apartment that I've been living in for a few years. I recently bought a house and moved out about 7 weeks ago. I've been trying my best to find someone to sublease, having already presented some candidates to the landlord. The latest was a couple, but after a month of trying to work something out with the landlord, they gave up early yesterday morning. He asked for 2 co-signers and multiple credit checks, deposits, cashier's checks, etc. Everything they did was wrong and had to be redone, or so he claimed. I had no reason to doubt him at this point. So yesterday we relisted the apartment for rent and within a few hours found someone wanting to rent it effective immediately, but they needed a showing. When we went with the potential tenant to show the apartment, we found that the landlord had demolished the kitchen, removing all appliances, counters and fixtures. Obviously, the prospective tenant was no longer interested as it did not fit his urgent timeline. I am now assuming that part of the reason he kept making onerous requirements for the previous subleasee is because he had intended to do these repairs all along. Also, had they actually managed to sign yesterday morning, he would have been unable to deliver a habitable unit. I'm also relatively certain he cannot come into the unit without notice, even if I'm not actively living there. I would also assume that he cannot demolish the kitchen, making it impossible for me to sublease the apartment. At this point, I just want to get out of my lease. What do I do next? Should I send him a letter? If so, what sort of thing should I say? Should I just request a cancellation or also point out all of the ways he violated the lease and the Chicago ordinances? His secretary sent me an email yesterday saying that we are still expected to pay January rent, but there's no chance I'm doing that. I want out. I want the prorated rent for this month returned to me, since it should have been rented already if he was not trying to get us to pay for a remodel, and I want my full security deposit back. Help and advice is requested. Edit. Thank you all for your answers and support. It seems like this is a clear-cut case. I wrote a letter including much of the recommendations and advice here: lease terminated, demand for return of rent and deposit. I ran it by a lawyer who provided some great edits. If and when he does not respond or resists, I will be filing with the city of Chicago. Edit number 2, Victory. Just spoke to the landlord. A few days after receiving the letter, he let me know that he absolutely intended to let us out of the lease, and in fact that was his intention from the start. He had decided, you see, to call us up on Christmas Day to let us know that as a gift for us being so good tenants, he was going to cancel our lease and give us back our deposit. But with the Christmas season being what it is, he got busy and was unable to do so until today. Sure, whatever, give me my money back, he will have the check tomorrow. And users in the comments suggested, good news, your landlord almost certainly breached the lease by not providing you with a habitable apartment by removing the kitchen. You should send him notice in writing you are leaving effective immediately due to the apartment not being habitable, and you expect a full refund of any security deposit. Assuming of course you did not cause any damage. Let him try and sue you for rent when he went in and destroyed your kitchen in the middle of your lease. And the next one is titled, Texas, my 14-year-old son was ganged up on and beat up by 5 football players in high school. I do not have the full story, and I am about 90% sure my son provoked at least one of the other kids in some way, but Friday my son was beat up by 5 members of the varsity football team. He was left with a broken nose, severe concussion and a cracked eye socket. After beating him up, the other boys ran. The school was unable to find the other boys who did this, so they are left with just my son. They are wanting to expel him from school for promoting violence and told the on-duty officer at the school to cite him for assault. Thankfully, the officer declined and is actually trying to find out who did this. My daughter in school heard the names of the 5 guys through the rumor mill and did report it to the principal, but these are 5 varsity football players. We are pretty sure he wants to sweep this under the rug because the school gets millions with an M of dollars from sponsors for the sports programs. Thankfully though, the officer does not and called the parents of the 7 names thrown about. Yes, I know 5 people beat up my son, but high school rumor mills turned that into 7 by the time the officer heard it, so he's checking every angle. Right now though, I am left with mid-sized medical bills. The insurance took care of most of it, but the copay for the visits are starting to get a bit serious. Luckily, the nose does not need surgery and the eye is not bad enough to require anything serious, so it is painkillers and antibiotics for my son for now. The story my son gave is that an argument with one kid turned into 4 of his friends ganging up on him and beating him up. He says he did not throw the first punch, cannot say one way or another if I believe him or if that matters, and says that he only got 1 punch in when they decided to jump him. After that he was held down and one guy did most of the punching. Who do I go after here for the medical bills? The school? Each kid's parents? And how do I start to do this process? I'm not looking to get rich here, just compensation for my personal expenses. The insurance company may want a piece of that too, but I do not care about that. I just do not want to be stuck with the copay bills plus whatever is left of my deductible. Edit, we are already challenging the school district for the expulsion and are pretty much guaranteed to get it overturned, so I have no questions regarding that front. Edit number 2, sorry, I did not make it clear in the post. My son had already given a full account of what had happened to the school officer. He gave 3 names because he did not know the other 2 boys. This was Friday afternoon that this happened. We received no word on Saturday or Sunday outside of a phone call from the police asking if our son could come down and talk to them again. But by that time he was about 10 minutes into a Vicodin, so they said they would talk to us Monday morning when our son was sober. And a user in the comments said, "Cop here, not in Texas. Those injuries to your son are serious. Any of those injuries should meet the standard of great bodily harm or disfigurement, which should raise this crime to a felony aggravated battery level. Regardless of whether or not your son threw the first punch, he was not met with a reasonable level of self-defense resistance." While I could understand one of his injuries occurring from a reasonable person attempting to defend themselves, the combination of all 3 serious injuries should meet the standard of an unreasonable battery on your son. I would make sure that the police department understands that you wish to pursue charges and you are not going to be satisfied until this matter is fully investigated, which it sounds like they are doing. It sounds like you have the school handled. I would get a personal injury lawyer and see what they think your case looks like as far as pursuing each of the attackers individually and or the school. And honestly guys, when I read this title, I did not expect something so serious. If you were the parent of this kid, what would you have done? Would you try to go after each person individually or sue the school? Let us know your choice in the comments. And the next one is the update to the Texas school story. So, it has been a hectic week and a slightly frustrating one. Some of the things here I have heard through the grapevine from my kids. I only found out that the other kids got ISS because my son told me they were in there with him. I wanted to say real quick, people in the last thread were telling me to make sure that the officer actually filed with the city. He did, unlike in other areas he is employed by the city and answers to the city. First, the expulsion was tossed out against my son. The school board has set strict levels of discipline for cases of fights. For the first offense, 3 days of in-school suspension, which my son and the other 5 boys have served. Second offense, 3 days of suspension and law enforcement is involved. This results in a ticket and a visit to the GP, where fines from $0 to $500 can be handed out. Third is expulsion and law enforcement. My kid's school thought that skipping steps 1 and 2 were okay, but that has been handled. We have a friend on the school board. When we told our friend what happened, she put in a call. The next day we were told that our son's punishment was reduced to in-school suspension, and we took that as fair, seeing as our son did throw the first punch. We learned that the other boys were in ISS with him as well. Apparently they had not been punished until Monday morning. The 5 boys who assaulted my son are now facing felony assault charges. I am told that they will likely get plea deals that will include reducing the charges to misdemeanors, defer and expulsion from their record if they keep their noses clean. Except the 18-year-old, the one kid who was over 18 was arrested. His dad refused to bail him out to teach him a lesson and left him in there for a few days before paying the bail. He already has a criminal history of a few misdemeanor thefts and a felony assault case already on his history. Go figure, he will be facing a much harsher punishment than that of the other kids. As for the payment of the medical bills, my insurance company will be going after the parents once the criminal process has been completed. The rep I spoke to told me that if they wait till after the criminal proceedings, it will be much easier to get restitution out of them. The hospital bills are now no longer being paid by me. And guys, at least that is a sort of wholesome ending to a surprisingly dark story. Airbnb host potentially extorting me and my friends for near $10,000. Backstory: my friends and I are all 18 and above, we are not 21 yet, and like most people, we were just trying to have a good time on the 4th of July. We had a family friend's place that was open for us to use, however, at the last minute we were not able to stay there. Before I continue, please just hear me out before criticizing. I know this whole story is going to sound dumb and irresponsible, but I need advice. We decided on a place about 40 minutes south of us. The house had a guest limit of 12 people, perfect for us. I booked it Sunday night and messaged the owner. He told me he was out of town and that nobody was going to be there to clean up. He offered a discounted rental price for the night. I accepted, and that was that. My messages from the beginning were clear about my intentions to have a gathering with my friends. Left the underage drinking part out of course, but I will get back to that. He never seemed to have any issues with me having people over. The day came and we followed all the instructions. I arrived with 2 others at the check-in time, retrieved the key from the lockbox and got inside. We went to get groceries for the night and came back. A few hours later and everyone was here. We went over the limit by 1 person. But we felt it was fine because some people left that night and 11 people slept at the house that night. We had some to drink and later on a few fired off 2 or 3 fireworks. I was inside at that point and I ran outside to find 2 police officers. Great, they responded to a concern from the neighbor claiming too many cars were over. That is when I realized I had quickly booked the listing for 1 guest. Crap, that was all my fault and I will accept that totally. The officers just wanted to let me know that they don't know the rental agreement, but that I need to keep it in mind so I'm not breaching any terms. They also claimed to have smelled alcohol on my breath and they asked to come inside to dump all the drinks and they would leave. I was okay with that. Airbnb called me that night and asked us to leave the premises immediately. The officers also told us beforehand to stay put, go to sleep and leave in the morning when it is safer to drive. For our safety, that is exactly what we did. After the officers left, we did not do anything else, literally just went to sleep, woke up, cleaned the house and left. Here is where things get interesting. He waited until this morning to send me a message expressing his anger at us for doing what we did. Once again, I understand that. Then he comes out and says that we first trespassed, 2 broke civil noise ordinances and 3rd had underage drinking. In the original message this morning, he wanted to pursue legal action and included this at the end of his message.
I hope you have a good lawyer or deep pockets. I will be seeking no less than $100,000 and arrest on several accounts. I will not settle for less than $10,000 as my family and I must now possibly seek alternate means of employment.
This, added with a $50,000 request through Airbnb, freaks me out to near sickness when I woke up this morning. I messaged him asking if there was any other way to solve this dispute, then I get these text messages. I discussed this matter with my attorney and my wife. Here is what we are willing to do. Since there are 12 of you as you said, we can have each of you pay $770 immediately, due by Tuesday, July 12th or earlier to my PayPal account. Or, if you want to all put your money together and pay payments, then you can all pay a deposit of $2,400 due by Friday, July 15th to my PayPal and then $1,200 a month for 6 months. This is only $100 each a month. Surely some college kids can figure out a way to make that happen. This is a very serious matter. I already have testimonies from 2 of my neighbors signed and dated. So I encourage you to get with your friends and figure out which course of action you would like to take and get back with me by the end of today, July 9th, 2016. If I do not hear from you, or if any of you miss a payment of any kind, I will have no choice but to take this to the next level. And this is my PayPal account. Obviously, I am very confused right now. Some of us are in college right now or getting ready to start our first year. I know that our behavior does not magically deserve a get out of trouble free card, but that is not what I'm asking here. First, is this guy trying to play us for a quick buck? And second, what are my options? Some of my friends are willing to take it to court to fight it, while some just want to pay and avoid anything further. Regardless, we all believe we really did nothing that warrants extortion of near $10,000 through PayPal. He wants an answer by the end of the day. Obviously, this seems really fishy that his lawyer did not contact me personally and he's asking for money in PayPal so quickly. Location is Tennessee. Here is the additional prices page on the listing. And guys, let me know in the comments what you think about this story. Do you think that what the Airbnb owner does is right? Or do you think he's trying to just extort money and basically scam them? To be honest, in my opinion, as opposed to many other legal advice stories, the OP in this case actually did something wrong. However, I'm not sure if that warrants extortion at all. Let me know your opinion in the comments. People in the comments suggested, ignore him, pay him nothing. What were his damages? At most, you would be liable for cleaning costs, assuming you caused no physical damages to his property. He can file a police report, but only the DA decides whether or not to file charges. He cannot force them to do so. If he serves you with a lawsuit, doubtful. Don't ignore it and deal with it appropriately. Until then, ignore and block him and move on. Don't do something like this again. And now the update to the Airbnb story. I blocked the host's number just as advised and he never contacted me again. I declined his $50,000 request on Airbnb and a resolution representative called me about 2 weeks later. He told me he talked to the host and they agreed on $500. However, the rep told me all I had to put down was $350 and Airbnb would cover the rest. Also assured me it would be the end of this dispute. Excellent customer service, very thankful they were understanding and realized my mistakes as opposed to the host that was understandably reactionary. Friends did not want to help me pay, so I had to foot the bill by myself essentially. Whatever, those friends are cut off now and I'm getting paid tomorrow. Just glad that this is over with. Thank you to all who messaged and replied to my previous post and kept their criticism to themselves. I know this was pretty dumb, but not dumb enough to warrant a $50,000 request. By the way guys, have you ever used Airbnb? What were your experiences? Personally, I've used it plenty of times when I was traveling through Asia and I've always had good experiences with it. And the last one is titled, Former Employee Extorting Our Business. I am the co-owner of a company in Canada that offers web services to other businesses in our region. We hired Jeff last year as an employee of our operations department. There were 2 employees in the same role as him, as well as a team leader. Jeff ended up creating software that made our entire operation department more efficient. After seeing it in action, we gave him the go-ahead to migrate all our clients' data over to his new program. Things were running so smoothly that our manpower in the department became superfluous, so we did not renew the contracts of his colleagues and reassigned his team leader to another department. Jeff was now entirely in charge of operations. Last Friday, Jeff's contract was set to expire. My fellow co-owner and I were prepared to give him a substantial raise, but the meeting quickly went sideways when Jeff started making unreasonable demands. We really did not want to lose him, but he would not budge, and so we reluctantly parted ways. Yesterday, he locked us out of the software that contains all our clients' information. When you try to launch the program, it redirects to a licensing page where we are prompted to pay the equivalent of his salary plus 50% to continue using the software. All existing backups are now 9+ months old at this point and are useless. Our business will be ground to a halt until we can access this data. Is this not extortion? I'm going to contact a lawyer later today, but I would like to hear some opinions here first. Guys, I'm curious, have you ever witnessed such an insane coworker that is basically able to hold the entire company hostage? I guess that is what happens when you give too much power to one person. People in the comments said, I am not a lawyer, but did he create it using company time and or with company resources? If yes, doesn't that make it the company's property? And yes, it normally would in the US, but not sure about Canada. Another person said, the extortion/blackmail and the damage being currently done to the company are all elements, of course. But depending on Canadian and local province law and on any employment contract, this should definitely be a central argument in the case. In my experience, in IT in the US, basically everything I produce for the benefit of my employer is owned by my employer. This is true whether it is done during work time or not, and true whether it is on work equipment or not. If I did something or made something that saved the company a lot of money, I would hope to be rewarded in some way, raises, bonuses, etc., but my company would have no legal obligation to do so, nor could I take the work with me when I left. And the next one is an update to the company's story. First off, I want to thank everyone for their responses, probably the most stressful day of my life. We were unable to unearth Jeff's signed employee contract and, thank God, there was a section that dealt with this kind of thing. By my layman's reading of it, I'm 99.9% sure that we rightfully own the software. My partner made the case for speaking to Jeff before speaking with a lawyer. He had a much closer relationship with Jeff and explained that he was just a stupid kid who obviously had not weighed the consequences of his actions.
Let's at least give him a chance to make things right before taking it to the next level,
kind of thing. I reluctantly agreed. If he put up any fight whatsoever though, I would be on the phone with the lawyer the moment the call ended. It took a few attempts, but we finally got Jeff on the phone. We read through his employee contract and it became clear to him right away that he had screwed up big time. Within 10 minutes, we had our access restored. His explanation was that he felt slighted that he did not get raised when he became the only employee left in the department. He also claimed he did not feel like he had job security because of how easily we let go of his two colleagues when they
were not needed.
He also claimed it was his friends who gave him the idea to
play hardball.
I'm sure we could have skewered him legally and probably still can, but right now I'm fine just leaving the situation as is. We've got our client data exported and backed up, and that is all that matters to me right now. There are still some loose ends to tie up, but my partner said he should have it under control. I've gotten only like 3 hours sleep in the last 2 days, so I'm headed to sleep and taking a damn personal day tomorrow. Thanks again to everyone who weighed in and helped out. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.